until you break my heart. You're never sad.
Hello, welcome to OLT 322 African American Literature. This is Lecture 11 on James Baldwin's famous novel, Go Tell It on the Mountain. My name is Warren Reed. Today we're going to talk about the characters. Gabriel, his wife Elizabeth, his stepson John, and also the church, which is an institution but is also a kind of character. Gabriel, the main character, represents black experience as his family moved from the south to the north in search of better opportunities. But of course, he is frustrated because that never happened. And like so many others, he escapes rather than face his problems. At first he escapes into alcoholism, and later he escapes into religion. And finally he abuses his power as a minister, as a preacher, to take advantage of women sexually, and also to oppress his family and make his reality the way he wants it to be. None of it works because escaping doesn't work. And as his problems arise from his color and he can't escape that, alcoholism and religion are not solutions. They're not remedies to that problem. The problem is a result of the oppressive environment. So a different kind of remedy is called for. He escapes into lust, thinking it gives him power, but each time it leaves him empty and more frustrated. His sexual deviance is a result of white oppression, which began in slavery. He makes it worse when he gains power as a preacher. In a society which does not allow black men to behave as men, these crises occur, and the question of manhood is raised here and more in Blues for Mr. Charlie because of it. Gabriel's lust is a challenge to the system. It is a result of the emotional poverty of America. He also feels guilty for treating his mother poorly, and his sister makes him suffer for it every time she can. He can't get over it, and it prevents him from having a loving relationship with his wife. To build his reputation as a preacher, he marries an ugly and disgraced woman. But when she is raped and can't have children, then his plan is foiled. He leaves her and gets married again. His second wife already has a son, John, who he often compares to his son Royal. They have a lack of understanding, both of them, because Gabriel is not honest about his true nature. How can he love others when he can't love or even understand himself? Instead of being an example for his sons, he uses harsh discipline to guide them. To quote the course material, in a sense, Gabriel dramatizes the crisis of manhood among African Americans. He does not and cannot find fulfillment in life because he has never developed a loving disposition toward others. So you see, lack of love is a big issue. Baldwin points out it's the cause of so many problems. Florence is Gabriel's sister. She blames her race and black men, and especially her brother, Gabriel, for all of her problems. She can't forgive the past, and she only wants revenge. She thinks being white would change this, and so she starts putting skin whitening cream, but of course this tactic doesn't work. It only increases her self-hatred and shows it even more because it's a physical representation. She cannot love because she does not accept or love herself. She represents the self-hatred which is prevalent and caused by racism and which continues in America to today. The problem is, dark or light. Dark people are not as good as light people, that kind of thing, and that's born out of racism. We see that even around the world, and it's just totally untrue. Elizabeth is Gabriel's wife. She's probably the main victim of racial hatred, starting with her mother. Elizabeth is dark, and her mother couldn't love her because she's too dark. Can you believe it? But it happens, and the novel dramatizes that. Also, her fiancé dies as a result of racial oppression. Then she marries Gabriel, who also is unable to love her, to return her love. She loves him, she tries, she keeps the family together, but she doesn't get love in return. Baldwin uses Elizabeth to show that love can occur if you have an open heart and you make the effort. John, the stepson, the son of Elizabeth, is also a victim of hatred. Gabriel hates him, and John hates him back. You remember Bigger found his identity in Native Son through murder. Well, John seems to find his identity through hatred. He builds his identity around hating his father. Yet he feels guilty for this hatred because he knows in a Christian way that it's wrong. This also occurs because of his fear of Gabriel, and through Gabriel he fears God. His ignorance about why he hates also makes it worse, makes him hate even more. John escapes into religion, but again, escape isn't a solution. Remember that. He fears God because Gabriel instills a fear of God through him. And fear, as we know, is a good starting place for the development of hatred. The church. Baldwin gives us the first in-depth look at the black church in African American literature, and it's very critical. He shows the church, in his view, of course, that the church lacks love and is made up of frustrated people who bend religion to their own uses. Gabriel preaches from the Old Testament, the old fire and brimstone, because he can't preach love. For Baldwin, as shown in the novel, the church is not helpful because its members are not sincere in their faith. It's all hypocrisy. They pretend to be Christian, but the behavior is another thing. So this brings us to the end of highlighting the main points of Lecture 11. Go Tell It on the Mountain. We talked about Gabriel, his wife Elizabeth, his stepson John, the church, and how escape is not an answer. It's better to face and struggle with problems, to try to deal with them, live with them, rather than escape. If you turn your back on things, you're always dragging something around. It's always best to deal with something in whatever way you're able to. Hope that helps. If not, you can email me, of course. And happy studies!